left Mr. Kaufman as he gained experience as an Army intelligence officer, while the Allies pushed the German Army out of France and directly back into the boyhood region of his youth. As Ernest analyzes intelligence reports and aerial photographs, he makes a discovery that only a native of the region would make. He sees several dams on a small river, where back when he was a kid, there was only one dam. Why were these additional dams there?
And we moved on. So that was one of my psychological warfare deals that I did during the war. Well, I went back to Corps headquarters, to Cavalry headquarters, who at the time was staying put in Maastricht, which is not far from Aachen. Aachen is the first German city that the 1st Division captured. And that was the first, basically, major city we got across the Siegfried Line. It was a big achievement, but then, of course, from there, the next objective was the Rhine River. And while we were there in Maastricht, and I figured years ago, when I was growing up in Germany yet, in 1930s, I had watched the Germans build a dam on a river called Ruhr. Now, I had no idea what they were building it for in such haste. And I figured, well, while we're there, Aachen was in our hands, why not go and investigate? Well, with my men, I go to Aachen. We went, found the Water District Administration office, and found a safe that we blew open. You know, hand grenades do a pretty good job sometimes. I find in there a treasure trove of German military documents, which describe, first of all, how both dams, the old existing one and the new one, were built, what their capacity was, and above all, what would happen if the dams were blown. How many billions of water would cascade downriver, how long an area would be inundated, how large an area would be impassable, and all this stuff that proved to be so important that when I came back to the G2 with it, because at that time, as I said, we were at more or less at Corps headquarters, Colonel Platt sent me immediately to the Army engineer and said, tell him what you found. And I get to the Army engineer, tell him what I found and whatnot, and he, of course, I said, I'll translate it as quickly as I can. It caused attack orders to 12th Army Group, which in my opinion was probably 250,000 men, if not more, was halted immediately because they were supposed to go early in November to attack across the Rhine, was halted immediately, and basically shortly after that came, of course, the Battle of the Bulge and whatnot, and eventually the Germans blew those dams to cover their own retreat rather than to keep us from advancing. And once the flooding had subsided, of course, we were able to get across the Ruhr River. So it may have saved a catastrophe.
Wow. Can you imagine what that wall of water would have done to the American troops advancing up the valley below the dams? The results would have been catastrophic. Thankfully, Lieutenant Ernest Kaufman was alert and took the necessary action to avert that calamity. Our next episode will have Mr. Kaufman returning to his hometown and finding out what happened to his boyhood home. The inhumanity that he finds is remorseful. Tune in to the next episode to learn what the Nazis did to Ernest's family and the other Jewish people who lived in his hometown.